Okay, everybody, welcome back to Bloom. I am so excited for this episode. I've actually been dreaming of this since I even wanted to do a podcast because I want everyone to know this beautiful person that you see. If you're on YouTube, you can see how beautiful she is. She's also just as beautiful in her heart. This is Lauren Peña, and she is a dear friend of mine, and she's also a mindset coach herself. And the reason that I have her on today is because she's certified in something it's called, you're a heart math certified mentor. Did I say that right?
Yes.
So Lauren taught me a little bit about heart math, and it blew my mind. And it also made a lot of sense to me, as with nutrition as my background, because we're starting to understand the body and just human beings on a whole different level, a deeper level. So like the gut health thing, like the gut brain connection is a new thing that we're learning. Oh, the brain isn't doing all the stuff. Like the gut actually has a say in, I mean, it can affect our mood and a lot of different things. And now Lauren introduced me to this heart math, which is another thing that it feels like we're just starting to understand ourselves as humans on a different level. So without further ado, Lauren, will you please just introduce everybody listening to heart math and what it is?
Yeah. So heart math is something I was introduced to back in, I think it was 2020, um, by a mentor of mine. And it was one of those things that you learn about and you're like, how does the world not know about this? Because this is literally the way our body works. And once we have the tools and the understanding of it, it's like mind blowing. And it feels like something we should have been learning since we were in kindergarten and just, continuing our education way throughout our life. But the fact that I made it over 30 years and was just learning about it was like, whew. But basically, what it is. So, Heart Math has a research institute out of Southern California, and they study the heart brain connection. And it's super fascinating because what they've not started to, they've been doing this for a few years now, but they uncovered the fact that there's actually more signals coming from your heart to your brain than there are from your brain to your heart, which is kind of counterintuitive to what we used to think, because we've always been told that our brain is the one that's running the show when it comes to our bodies.
Right.
But like to what you were saying earlier, there's just so many more players in this whole situation that we are only really starting to fully grasp. And your heart is one of them. So they have come up with really, really amazing findings, but also tools to give people to help really utilize our body like at its full potential. And I like to think like we can actually optimize the way that we're running on a day-to-day level when we have a better understanding of our heart and its connection to the brain and the rest of our body and how it makes us feel, and then therefore how we show up to our lives. So for me, this tool was really like amazing for like helping overcome anxiety and just like so many things. It's obviously, I'm excited because I could keep going on and you haven't even asked me a single question. I'm just going and going and going.
Well, here, so give us some, like, a concrete example, more of a concrete example of how our heart can communicate with our brain and like how they figured that out.
Mhm. So they've done a bunch of different studies and they are very sciencey. Obviously, they're a research institute. However, I'm using the term sciencey, which shows you how sciencey I am. But really, it's fascinating. And what they've found is that your heart is, in many times, like the one that's able to detect things beyond we even consciously like comprehend. And so that there's a lot that goes into that, but really what's useful for people on like an everyday level is just allowing ourselves enough stillness and focusing on our heart and that will allow us to access that intuitive, guidance, or that will allow us to feel into whatever feels right. Right. For some people, like intuitive guidance feels very woo wooey, but really like when people talk about like a gut instinct, I like
Mm,
to kind of see the way that you feel in the moment is also connected to your heart. So it's kind of one and the same for me
hmm.
personally. But when you allow that stillness to happen and you focus on your heart center, and you allow everything else to kind of calm down, you can really move all the fuzz out of the way and focus in on what feels right. Therefore, you can make more informed decisions. You can calm yourself down just because you're allowing yourself to breathe. And so that's a lot of what their tools really help you do is like calm your nervous system down, focus on one place being your heart. And in doing that, you can help yourself to regulate and make better decisions. And it sounds so simple, but the fact that we don't do it all the time, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Truly. Well, and I think it's really fun that you said it sounds woo woo, and it does to just be like, listen to your heart, follow your gut. But this is telling us like the fact that heart math is a thing, there's science behind it. It's literally giving us evidence that it isn't just this like energetic woo woo thing. There's something real and provable to your heart being able to communicate with you. I remember you telling me a story about them like some showing pictures to people and their heart knowing what it was before their brain could even register it because they didn't even have time to see it yet.
Yeah.
Remember the details of that story enough to share it? Because it was so
Yeah.
fascinating.
So what they ran a study where they had individuals sitting in front of a computer and they were showing them various images. And what they would do was actually run through images that were like positive and like happy, like a picture of, a bunny inside of a field or surrounded by flowers or whatever. And so they would have a blindfold on, but what they were noticing is their heart would register the emotion associated with that image before their eyes even had a chance to see the photo itself. So on the flip side, like when they would show a picture of something that would trigger them in a different way, like a car accident, something that was more negative, their heart would actually register that information first before they're like could visually even see it. And so that's when it's like, I don't know if they can fully explain why that is, but they were noticing a direct correlation between people's responses to different images and how their heart was picking up on it before their brain was because they didn't see it. So that's when it's like, okay, there's so much more going on here than we even realize.
It really, I mean, just that alone tells us that we're so much more than our physical self because our eyes are physical, right? And our eyes, there's like it reflects to our retinas and blah, blah, and that goes up to this nerve that goes to the brain, and then our brain tells us this, and it all happens in a split second, which is a miracle in and of itself. But the fact that there is something outside of our physical bodies that is registering things before our physical bodies even can, it opens up an entirely new conversation, an entirely new perspective on
Right.
existing in this on this planet, right? When I was in college, I was a music major for a little while, and I was in a chorale, the touring chorale of the university,
Mm-hmm.
and the director told us this amazing study that had been done where they hooked everybody, this choir, up to heart monitors and they started singing together. And after a very brief amount of time singing together, their heartbeats were all in sync. So
Yes.
I'm like, holy crap, like the heart is just so amazing. We're all so connected. And this just lends itself to that idea as
Right.
well. And also, we can be more connected with ourselves, which is top
Mhm.
priority because that's your relationship with yourself is going to be like the relationship to influence all other relationships, right?
Yes.
So that's fantastic. So tell us when it comes to utilizing heart math, how have you seen it be the most beneficial and how do you teach it? How do you help other people really dig into this and understand how to apply it in their own lives?
So for me, it helped a lot with anxiety. Right off the bat, it was a way to help calm my body and center my attention into something different other than whatever my brain was spinning around that landed me in that anxious state. Um, and then also, once you're coming from that more clear space, you can then make decisions so much better. And so, what I was starting to realize was beyond just that, like that was my own personal experience and what started me with it all. But
Mm-hmm.
then, as I was getting into coaching, and I coach a lot of people who are starting their business for the first time or stepping into becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner. And what I kept noticing was everybody had a calling or something that they were passionate about that they wanted to do. But what was holding them back were thoughts. what if I am not successful? Or what if I can't do this? Or what if there's someone else that's better than me? Or what if this doesn't work? Or what if I fail? Right? These are all of these thoughts circulating in their head. And then they're also coming up with reasons to believe those things based on more and more fears, right? So spiraling out based on thoughts. But what I always ended up wanting them to come back to was that initial calling or that initial passion that landed them in a place to where they were starting this business and that they wanted to do it. Because when they were in sync with that, that's what helped them move forward. And that's what actually helps them take action was when they were more in alignment with that excitement and that passion. And so for me, it was really clear that people needed to get out of their head and they needed to get back into their heart so they could be reunited with the reason why they started this whole business in the first place or why they wanted to. So it just became really obvious that people needed a tool to get out of their head and into their heart. And so that's what the basis of all of the heart math practices teach you is like, how can I, like when I say bring in stillness, it's
Mm-hmm.
clear out everything in your head enough to where you can listen and feel into what feels right to you. Because there are clear directions on what to do, but you could think in a bit, like I always say, like you could think in a bunch of different directions, but your heart will guide you straight, right? It's a straight shooter.
That's that's so true. Well, what's interesting is that your brain, like we know that your brain, we call it the animalistic brain, right? Its
Mhm.
key role in our lives is to help us to survive. So the way that it's built and programmed is, I mean, we've got the negativity bias, we've got survival instincts, we've got like, it's very much, it can sometimes get in the way because we are definitely in a space now as human beings where we don't need to stress or worry or focus so much on surviving.
Mhm.
Thank you, brains for keeping us alive as a species for this long. But now we have a tool where we can kind of be like, okay, thank you for everything you've done. I'm going to move now into my heart, which I mean, we can just assume we don't know. But if your brain is designed to keep you alive and to survive, then your heart, I mean, to love, is that its main role? You know what I mean? To love, to be connected. Who knows? I mean, I love leaning into the idea anyway that its main role, rather than survival, is connection.
Mhm.
And I would definitely much rather be in that space. I'm sure most people would, to make decisions from a space of
Mhm.
love instead of fear, right?
Oh yeah.
So teach us about the technique here, because I'm sure everybody's listening, like, okay, I'm sold. I would definitely like to not think so much and just like go with my heart. So how do we do this? How do we
Yeah.
make this connection?
Yeah. So the reason, and then one of the analogies I always use is like you're, somebody else said this. This is not mine, which is just so good. I have to borrow it. But we are driving our bodies like a Ford when in reality it's a Ferrari. And there's so much more sophistication and capability that comes with our body that we don't even realize we have that we can utilize. And so these tools, like what I
Mm.
can walk us through, is super simple, but it takes practice. It takes like a true desire to make these shifts for yourself and diligence over time too, because it's like, people who try to meditate once and they're like, not for me. My brain was going everywhere. I couldn't stop thinking. It's like, well, yeah, because it was your first time, but you will get better. And so this is the same thing where it's like fully allowing yourself to be present and stick with it, because what we're trying to do over time is build what heart math calls as heart coherence. So it's when your heart and your brain are actually in coherence. You're out of coherence when you're like very angry or you're highly stressed. Any of the like negative or depleting emotions, you're out of coherence, which makes it harder to make decisions. So these tools help you get into coherence. And again, super simple. But if you want, should we walk through one? Like do
Yes.
okay.
Yes, Sensei, teach me how to connect.
So you could do this on the go, a smaller, like quicker version of this with your eyes open. But what I'm going to do right now, if everybody's not driving, like definitely do this later if you're driving. But if you're in a place where you can like focus and sit down quiet with your eyes closed, this is the method that I like to use. And it's called a heart lock in. So go ahead and make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes. And I personally like to have my hand on my heart. Then what we're going to do here is just breathe in and out at a comfortable pace. It doesn't need to be anything fast or slow or anything specific, but just a comfortable pace for you. But as you're breathing in and out, imagine that the air is flowing in and out of your heart space. So just sit here for a few moments, imagining every time you breathe in, it's moving into your heart, and every time you exhale, it's moving out of your heart. And what I want you to do is recall a memory of a time where you felt really at peace, really happy. It could have been a year ago, it could have been a week ago, it could have been 10 minutes ago. It's just a memory of a time when you felt really at peace and happy. And keep your focus on your breath as well, still imagining it moving in and out of your heart. Once you've gotten that memory in mind, imagine all the feelings you were feeling around that memory. What did it feel like to be in that time? And then again, imagine that you are breathing in those emotions now into your heart. And we'll sit here for a few more seconds, keeping your attention on your heart space and the air going in and out of your heart. And sitting in that memory, breathing in those emotions. And take the last few breaths here. All right, and then open your eyes. How are you feeling?
It reminds me of the way that I feel after a really solid heart centering meditation, where the goal is to connect in love through love, and just
Mhm.
be in that heart center. Like that's such a quick way to do it.
Yeah. And this is something that I said in the middle there, recall a time or a memory of a time where you felt really at peace or happy. But you can call in any emotion that you want to, right? You might be feeling really like nervous before something, and maybe you want to call in confidence. And so you recall a memory of a time you felt really confident. Or, maybe you're feeling really anxious and you just want to feel calm, whatever it is, you can call that in through that memory because your body stores energetic memories. And so part of what's happening is not only are you getting that space to like clear out your thoughts, but again, you're focusing on your heart because now this is creating that coherence that we were talking about, and this is calming the nervous system. But it's also experiencing the emotions of that memory, and your body is like, hey, I know this. Like, it believes you're in that moment. It doesn't know any different. So you can change, you can actually shift your your energy just in that moment to whatever you want it to be, just by allowing yourself that space and that time to focus. And it's like so simple, so needed.
It is. I listened to something that you actually sent me yesterday by good old Dr. Joe.
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he the way he put it is our body is so objective that it can't differentiate between past, present, future. It just feels the emotion that's present and assumes that that is what is present. So that's such an important thing to remember. When we're in a moment of stress or fear, we can call in the emotion that we want to feel, and our
Right.
brain and our body will just be like, that is what is present. That is what is real. and you'll feel it as if it's happening, it's
Yeah.
calling in gratitude too. That's what I felt big time. Like if I could put a word to the overarching feeling that I had as I was remembering all of that, I was like, oh, I'm so grateful. I just love my life. I've had such a good life, so that keeps you at a good solid high vibration, and also helps you to remember everything good, everything that is working for you. Ooh,
Mhm. Yeah, girl.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming on the
Yeah.
podcast and for teaching us a little bit about heart math. I know there's so much more to it. This is literally just scraping the surface. And you said there's more sciencey, which we did discuss before. Like, do we want to go sciencey? I'm like, nah. Anyway, this was so fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Lauren. You guys can follow her on Instagram. Tell us what your handle is.
It's at Lauren underscore Anais, and that's LAUREN underscore ANAIS.
Anais. This is a beautiful Spanish name. Thank you so much again for taking time to be here and to share with us this very beautiful practice. And I hope that you guys will really just be curious about this, right? No pressure, try it on, see if it's something that works for you, that helps you to live a more wholehearted life, and lean into it if it does work. Because like Lauren said, we want to be driving Ferraris, not Fords. So let's just like
Yes,
use this
yes.
for what it can do for us. And as always, please feel free to share this with anybody that you'd like to contemplate this with. And if this is your first time stopping by, so glad to have you here. Always appreciate your support. Thanks again to Lauren. We'll see you guys next time.